Hey, this is Steve with the Growing with Fishes podcast.
We're still off air.
No, we're not. We're on
Oh, it
air.
says, oh, it says off air on mine. Weird. Oh, now
Oh,
it's live. Subtle delay.
oh, way to have Fish Ganja Guy bomb the opening like Marty did in the very beginning.
It's the
Every,
tradition now.
yeah, whatever time we get a new regular host, they got to bomb the first couple of intros. What's up,
Sorry, I just felt
everybody?
right.
This is the Growing with Fishes podcast. For the second week in a row, we've had a monumental amount of technical difficulties either on my end. Last week I had so I live out near the border in Southern California, and we had a border patrol guy chasing after some other people, roll his pickup truck into the power pole at the end of our road, and take out the power pole and disconnected us, and I had no power for a couple days, so that's why we didn't have a show last week. Then we tried to get it this week, and well, Fish Ganja Guy and and Brendan are all driving to the DGC Cup. I'm flying out tomorrow morning, which we'll touch on in a minute. But so they're having some issues with the fact that they're driving through the middle of nowhere right now, and we didn't take this into account when we were planning this show this week. So we are sporadically losing Fish Ganja Guy and Orr and Brendan aren't able to join us this week, so we are going to reschedule them for hopefully next week. I will have an interview with them for the weekend. I'll have an interview with Fish Ganja Guy. Plan on getting a bunch of really dope interviews this weekend out in Colorado at the DGC Cup. Well, lots of footage and stuff like that will be up on the channel, and we're excited about that. But unfortunately, we were not able to get a good enough signal to where they are right now, where we could get a good enough audio signal to do the recording today. So I apologize. We will get them on the show. We tried last week. I couldn't get my stuff running. We tried this week. We couldn't get that running. Marty will be joining us here eventually, hopefully.
And I apologize. I'm currently driving. I got another like 30 miles until there's actually a solid signal. So I might be in and out or sporadic. And I do apologize if that affects my sound quality, everybody. I try not to do that, but I wanted to make sure I was on this week's podcast. And the fact that I'm on the road just kind of happened to overlap with that timing. So it's what it is.
Well, why do you have good connection? Why, since Spectrum King couldn't be here, why don't you talk about the little experiment you got running with Black Dog and Spectrum King, and different stages? And you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Well, right now I'm running a side-by-side study of two Spectrum King 400 plus LED lights over beds. So each one's got a 3x3 bed with some medical plants, and then I've got some Black Dog LEDs. I've got a Phytomax, and then I've got a Phytomax 2, their new one, 400 watt, and I've got those two over a 3x6 bed. So basically the same square footage and canopy space, same plants. Almost all of them are from same mothers, and I'm just basically doing a study to see not who gets more weight, but what the different spectrums between the two of them bring as far as trichome production and potencies. So after everything's dried and cured, I'm going to be doing some lab testing on some certain ones that I've picked as my test samples. Everything's been in the same fish water, the same sump tank, same fish tank, getting the same environmental conditions because they're all in the same room. There's just a panda film separating the two areas. So they've got the same CO2 amount. I water them with the same nutrients. The only difference is the light spectrum. So it's been a great study so far, and I got to tell you, Spectrum King has really impressed me with the growth that I saw in the vegetative stage. Very large foliage, tight internodal spacing, and just overall vigor has just been very, very impressive. And when it comes to customer service, both companies, Black Dog and Spectrum King, are fantastic. I mean, you can get somebody on the phone here in the USA, where all the products are made from both companies, and get your problems handled really quick. And they're very knowledgeable, and they're happy to help you out. Which, not just in the growing or lighting industries, but just from a business in general, I haven't had that experienced from too many industries in my lifetime where people are that consistently good with their customer service, and I get that from both of these companies. So yeah, so far I'd have to say they're both great products, Black Dog and Spectrum King, and I'm just curious to see how the end result of this study is going to go, because this is my first time running the Spectrum Kings, and I've run the Black Dogs before, and I know that the trichome resin production is just phenomenal from those lights.
Oh, did we lose Fish Ganja Guy, or is that on my end? I think we might have lost him. Oh, or was that on my end? Shoot.
Very curious to see how. Yes. You still there, Stevie?
Yep, I'm here.
All right, good.
Was that on my end?
God, I hope so. Because I just said so much stuff. I'm not repeating it. So if nobody heard. I like both the companies. They're good. Both of them are good.
Is anyone in chat that can tell us what the hell just happened? We're both on. I should be able to get in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I'll have actual hard line finally where I'm at, so that'll change things quite a bit. I'll have like actual normal regular broadband rather than tethering to a cell phone, which is how I've been living. But apparently no one in live chat feels like participating today.
It's all good.
It's all right. Maybe I should just refresh it. But yeah, so I worked a lot with Black Dog when I was doing work back in Colorado, and they did really good work. We only had, in all the years that I worked at aquaponic stores, we only ever had one Black Dog that have a problem, and it wasn't the light fixture itself. It was just they had it in like a super humid grow room, and the little temperature sensor that like automatically shuts the thing off went bad because it just got corroded because the guy had it in like, super super humid
the high
room.
temp shut off.
Yeah, so the temperature shut off sensor went, but that's the only time that we ever had a problem with any of them, and they took it back, and they ended up giving us a new, like, just gave us a replacement one that was brand new and didn't even like give us the they didn't even replace, fix the part. They just gave a brand new one to the customer, which was super dope. So but I also have had a chance to go over to the dude's house from the Dude Grow show last trip or two. I was in Colorado and see his and helped hang his Spectrum Kings, and I was like blown away by how bright they were compared to, and like it looked a lot more like daylight than I had seen an LED look like before.
So I don't know if you're aware of this, Steve, but Spectrum King, we've got a lot of products that different vendors are going to be giving us, or the DGC, to give away as prizes to the growers and the people at the DGC Cup. And Spectrum King, from what I understand, gave a closet case and an SK600 for prizes. So nice. I don't know about you, but my ass is going to win that SK600.
I don't know. They'll say it's insider. I'll give the guy that gives the good side by side the light.
I don't give a shit. I want it.
I'm just kidding. But yeah, their bigger, beefier light is, I forget what model number it is, but it's
the SK6. It's the SK600. That's their $1,500 light, and that thing is a.
That's the one. That's beast. The one I got. Yeah, that's the one we hung.
Those up close, and oh my god, you're right. They're so bright.
That's the one we hung at the dude's house, and we both stood back and we're just like, damn. Yeah. So while we're on that note, why don't we tell people about the DGC Cup?
Oh yeah, definitely. Would you like to take a point on this?
I was actually just pulling up the website right now so I could like highlight the points on their thing here.
Really?
We're both going to be at the DGC Cup here this weekend.
For people who don't know, the DGC Cup is the Growers Cup for the Dude Grows crew, the community that follows the Dude Grows show. Basically, it's just a really tight-knit growers community, a lot of supportive people that help each other out with like knowledge and evidence-based growing facts and styles. And they have a podcast that they put on daily, as well as a membership area for the site where you can get a lot more really good content. And this is the second of the cups that they're putting on where they try and get their community together to really show off what they've been able to do and see who's growing the dank.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's on it's Saturday, April 15th, and it's from 5 to 10 p.m. and it's at Cultivated Synergy. But if you want in Denver, but if you want to go, you need to make sure that you get tickets, and you have to email dgccup@gmail.com, and then with the title and the email being tickets, and the subject line in order to request tickets, and that's one ticket per email. So if you want to go, that's how you got to find out, and that's how you go.
Yeah, you can't just show up at the door and expect to get in, because for legal purposes, it has to be a private event. So you have to be invited. So let them know you want to be invited, and then you can get on that whole routine with it. But if you just show up at the door and be like, hey, I'm friends with so-and-so, they'd be like, cool, you can tell that to the guy down the street because you're not getting in here. But if you manage to take care of everything and get to the cup, that'll be great. We'd love to meet you and talk grow. I know I'm competing one or two strains there. So I don't know if Steve's going to have anything with him, but I'll be representing the Aquaponic community, TGC, which is really just Steve and I in the TGC. And it's gonna be a good time. I know we've got like a couple food trucks at Scotty and Dude Managed to Arrange. It's like a soul food truck, and then I think a taco truck. Yep. Both of them are supposed to be really good.
Marty was trying really hard to make it, but his wife is about to have another kid, and if he was at a weed cup when she went into labor, she'd probably like decapitate him once she found his ass. So he needs to make sure he's there for that.
Well, I mean, if he's like, I'm flying out Saturday morning, hon, I'll be back Sunday morning. If she decided to go into labor in that little period, that's pretty selfish on her part.
Hold it in, baby. Hold it in. Cross your legs. Hold that aspirin between your knees.
Oh, shit. Marty, we feel for you, brother.
Oh, he should be joining us. He just said he's finally about to hop on. So I know he's got some new cool stuff to talk about.
Awesome. And then let's see what else is going on so we got the DGC Cup that we covered. Didn't you have a bit of news that you just discovered? That's some good news.
Which one?
Mr. 215.
Oh yes. Hold on. Shit, I gotta go back. Okay, so a couple of weeks ago we talked about how Dennis Perone, they thought he didn't have much time left. So they've had like a little bit more time to study what the heck was going on with him. And they just had this post 22 minutes ago, like literally 22 minutes ago, Dennis Perone's like PR person put this out. So this is like hot off the presses. Good news today, the cancer that they thought went to the brain, which is a final aggression of the cancer, was not cancer at all, but a sign of 2 small strokes. So I'm going to live maybe another 5 years or longer. I'm so relieved. I can't express my happiness. Now I'm working out, trying to get my body in shape, including my speech. I attribute it to the kindness I have received from my many friends from the years, plus the misleading from the doctors at the VA. So I'm going to live. Now I must find a job, perhaps one of these clubs as a kind of reader. They have all wall market. Good news. I'm going to live, fight another day. I've given up the battle. I haven't given up the battle yet, and I will never give up the battle. It will never be over as long as there is injustice around the world. I again am your servant. Thank you for everyone for believing in me, and thank you for all your well wishes. Thanks again. So that's super fucking awesome that one of the greatest names in cannabis is going to be with us a little bit longer. I had a chance to spend some time with him, and it was a really awesome experience.
I just cut out there for last like 3-4 seconds. Did you, just in case I missed it, did you let everybody know who he is, just in case anybody's new to the podcast and the industry and doesn't know how he relates to the movement in California?
Yeah, so we touched on this a few episodes ago, but we'll touch on this again. Dennis Perrone is pretty much the founder of the legal cannabis movement. For lack of better explanation, he's the one that authored California 215. He's written a whole bunch of different bills, including like multiple bills for San Francisco. He's helped co-author bills in other parts of the country. He's also an enormous LGBT activist that fought alongside Harvey Milk and a whole bunch of other people back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. He was one of the biggest proponents for AIDS research. And the guy's just, you could go on and on and on about the amount of good deeds this guy has done for the world and different communities. He's really one of the handful of very good people in the community. The cannabis community, gets a bad rap. Has a lot of toxic people, but he definitely is not one of them. And he's definitely one of the people that you can kind of stand back and use as a role model for people in the cannabis industry. So we really appreciate all he's done. And I read that literally as we were doing sound check, trying to work out some of these sound issues. So it was like a really wonderful thing to read that.
Yeah, that was definitely a good pick-me-up. It's been a long day.
It's been a long fucking week.
Yes, it has. Oh,
yep.
God. I'll catch you up on some of my stuff when I see you at the cup.
Sure. I will be teaching up in Ouroboros on April 21st and 22nd. I know Marty and I had talked about doing an online class that weekend. I ended up not realizing I'd already scheduled a class up in Ouroboros that weekend. So I'm going to double check with Marty as soon as he cops on, but I think we're going to just push it back a weekend and we'll do the online class the last weekend of April. And I do apologize for that, but that will also give me time to get an actual hardline broadband connection, which will help as well for everyone else's sanity. So there was another big thing that happened this week. Justin Treyu unveiled a bill that would legalize cannabis by Canada Day next year. Although there's a few points in this that are kind of bullshit. Before I go into my gripes, let's just go over the bill. So it would allow anyone over the age of 18 in Canada, although provinces could set higher minimum ages, you'd have to be 18 years old and you can only have up to 30 grams on you. And they would allow different provinces to set different age limits. Growing, importing, exporting, or selling outside licensed channels would still remain a serious crime. Provinces can decide where and how marijuana can be sold. They can also set fixed government prices or government minimums for cannabis distribution to assure tax. They get the certain amount of tax money. Local governments can also decide on local tax ordinances. The country. Hold on. It would limit people to 4,000, or no, I'm sorry, 4,000. I wish. It would limit people to 4 plants per adult, which is absolutely ridiculous. We really need to have 25 or 30 plant counts. If I could have a mom and a bunch of little ones, or a couple of different moms and a couple of production plants, say 4 to 6 of each strain, that's reasonable. But yeah. I mean, anyone who's phenome hunting automatically has to break the law just to figure out which one is good for moms. That's just completely ridiculous. That or do it by canopy space, so you're allowed to have this many square foot of canopy in a residential area. That's more than reasonable rather than doing it by plant count. I'm trying to think. There was one other bullet point on here. I'm trying to find it. Anyways, it would still basically maintain all the current drug laws and just allow for a certain amount of open distribution. It's kind of crazy. It's like the weirdest, one of those stranger legalization bills I've seen so far. But that was one of the other points I wanted to mention this week. This week's going to be a little bit shorter episode.
Yeah, when you bring up that plant count, that's another good thing too. Is when you look at states like Colorado that everybody's so hyped about, or to places like California or Oregon, when you have the 12 plant max in the household in Colorado, and I know they're getting rid of like the co-op system and everything like that, or card stacking, but when you have 12 and that includes your veg, keeping a couple mothers or even finding a medication that might work better for you becomes a moot point. Like you said, you're going to have to break the law if you want to try and find something that works better for you or for your family member.
Yep, which is completely absurd. Big bad Zubuzu or something lizard lips says from seed, how many weeks to take cuttings? From seed, it usually takes about a week, plus minus from the time you drop that thing in water to the time it germinates. In fact, I'm actually working right now on filming a how to germinate cannabis seeds, and I'm going to do like a every single day that you would need to do it. We're going to do a video of it. So the first day you put it in water. Second day, once the seeds have cracked, you transfer them to paper towels. Once those paper towels have germinated, then you transplant them into the soil and then onward. But once you it takes about a week to get it into the soil, plus minus, and then once it's in the soil, and fully germinated and above the ground and all, which again takes about a week, then you're looking at about, I would say you could take your first cutting maybe week 3 after that thing's germinated, maybe week 4, depending on your grow method.
Yeah, that's moving quick.
Well, it depends. I usually top them by week. I would say I top them by week 2 or 3, and then I can do actual cuttings after about a month, week 4 or 5, so where I could actually take a clone or like the first one if I really wanted to push it.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Then again, you
and that
also
would
have
be
to
like
make sure
ideal
that,
conditions,
yeah, that's what I was about to say, because if you don't have ideal conditions, like the light's too far away or the temperature, CO2, anything
Newts
like
aren't.
that, humidity especially for vegetative growth. If it's too low, that's going to be slowing down your growth.
Oh yeah, too low nitrogen as well is another big one, or
I
too
already know
much.
that, like my humidity, I already know is usually in like the mid 50s in my veg tent. So for my mom, so I know that growth is going to be a little bit slower. But since I'm not constantly taking cuttings off my mother's, that's not really an issue. Seedlings that I'm getting up to the point so I can take a cut and then root them and flip them so I can check for gender. Frustrating point, but it is what it is. Just remember, your environment is one of the most important things you have to dial down for plant growth and plant health.
Mm-hmm. Well, that too, and you also have what's the thing? The saturation density. Damn it, it's escaping me at the moment. Pressure.
Oh, the vapor pressure deficit.
Vapor pressure deficit. Thank you. Vapor pressure.
You're welcome.
Vapor pressure deficit is the.
Hold on to it.
Yeah, is the humidity and the temperature of the grow room, and that affects how well the stomata on the plant leaves respirate. And if you have the humidity or temperature too far off, that's where that's how you run into problems. And there's charts out there. I mean, you can go to quick Google and you can pull up those. But it's something that we haven't really talked about much on the show. I'm trying to remember. There's another big topic I was trying to talk to you about on the show this week, and I've had such a crazy hectic week. I forgot what it was.
Something that kind of fits in with what you're talking about, the plants respirating. It's been probably like 12 years since my last plant biology class, but it's how all the water molecules linked up like a long chain through the roots, leaf rare. really hope I didn't cut out during all that.
You cut out for me. Does anyone in chat want to give us feedback? Did he cut out or did I cut out?
If I cut out, everybody just look up transpiration on Google. I don't want to go back and do it again.
The other thing we'll say on that note is, if you're trying to do foliar spraying, which a lot of people do, especially for silica or potassium, you want to spray about an hour before your lights come on, or within about an hour after the lights come on, because that's when the stomata are at their largest diameter. That's when they can uptake the largest size molecule, and that will absolutely help make a difference if you're trying to feed them. It'll help them, they'll uptake more per day.
Well, here's a little trick that I like to do. It also lets me visualize everything to make sure I'm actually getting good, proper coverage. And during the dark with the headlamp on, lights. What I'll do is when everything comes on for like plants, tomatoes are opening, I'll turn off one light, spray all those plants, let that dry, then turn the light back on, and they'll still be in their day cycle because all the lights that are nearby will be. So move on to the next one, turn that off, spray those, and when the plants are dry, and keep moving on the line. And that way, nothing's getting burnt to a crisp or getting a sunburn from any oily IPM fluids. But the stomata are all open, and I'm actually able to see that I'm getting full coverage, not just guessing on it. I mean, it's a little bit more time consuming, but if you want to be really efficient with it and know that the stomata are open and you're getting every leaf surface, that's a really good way to go about it, I found. But if you've got a large scale operation, pain in the ass.
Yeah, the foggers are a really good way to go. There we go.
What up, Home Slice?
Make sure you turn down your volume a little bit. I'm getting feedback. If you're on a computer.
Got it.
Maybe down just a little bit more. Are you near a fan?
Hold on, I think I actually got some Bluetooth headphones I can use for this. Give me just a second.
That would help a lot. I'm gonna temporarily leave you. Okay, I'll unmute him in a second.
Did you?
What's that? There we go. Does that help? Nope, not quite. Okay. We'll temporarily mute him. Brian Grove's joining us. He been trying to get him on the show for a while, so we figured we'll get on there and have him on since we're kind of scrambling last minute this week.
Yeah. No worries.
Do you know what other vendors are going to be at the Cup? Almost.
I think life. Oh man, people are gonna have a rep. They're gonna have a.
Yeah, loop.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Fun.
Yep, that's a lot better.
I know they're gonna be some sick.
All right, sweet.
Shit.
There's some background noise, but we're not looping anymore.
All right, cool.
Yeah. So I guess if you happen to be near a fan or a grow light or something, I would. It's picking it up, but if not, if you can't move, then that's okay. How are you? Why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your grow? This is Brian Grow. He's joining us for the first time.
Oh shit, my freaking headphones are completely dead. Hold on, guys. I'm sorry.
No problem.
It's all good.
Sorry about the audio issues, guys. We're trying to scramble last minute. Our again, as we explained at the beginning of the show, we had some issues trying to get Spectrum King guys on. We'll get an interview with them this weekend, and we'll get them on the show next week or the week after. Tried to get them on the show last week, and we ran into a whole separate set of issues, which were fun in their own right. Looks like Marty might be joining us in a second as well. Okay. At any rate, I apologize for the dead time. What else? There was some new thing about Jeff Sessions with a task
All right, can
force
you
or
guys hear
something.
me?
There we go. That is so
I've
much better.
I have no idea
All
what
right.
that beady-eyed little weasel's up to, man. I try not to
Sweet.
even think about it.
So, Brian Grow, why don't you tell us a little about yourself? I know you're a big fan of the show. You're, I think, an aquaponic grower as well. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. I've been growing aquaponics since the November of 2015. I kind of just I'm pretty much kind of new to growing altogether, to be honest. I've just been kind of learning as I've been going, and I'm at where I feel like I'm having a pretty good success rate right now. Um, I've been having a pretty consistent harvest lately. The whole idea of my system is I'm trying to do what I can to master like a perpetual harvest aquaponic system using all grow beds feeding from the same sump tank and the same water supply.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just recently, I actually installed an extra pump into my sump tank, and I don't know exactly how good this is going to work, but I kind of have it based on the theory like, well, my system, it doesn't run 24 hours. I think like most systems I've seen basically use a siphon system and are able to run like 24 hours a day or whatever. I have mine on like a drain away system, and it cycles on 6 times a day for 30 minutes. And since I added the other pump, it now cycles 12 times a day. What I have it doing is, well, I actually made a comment in during the last podcast that I'm going to be working on setting up an extra system. And I'm basically going to be using that for breeding or whatever, flowering out if I need to flower something out in there or whatever. Um, well, what I need to do is I need to get the fish out of my sump tank and move them into the new system, which I actually just ordered the stuff for like yesterday or the day before, so I should be getting that sometime next week. I just ordered a 30-gallon like a stock tank, and then one of the grow beds that I'm already used to using, and I kind of built out a frame for that. But basically, I'm going to take the fish out of my sump tank and move them into the what's going to be the breeding setup. So the sump tank won't have any fish in it, and I have the fish tank. So I have two tanks. I have a sump tank and I have a fish tank. And the idea of it is to pump all of the water from the sump tank through my two veg beds and get them to suck out most of the nitrates or some of the nitrates or whatever it can do before that goes right back into the sump tank. And then from there, I pump that water, the same water, through the flowering beds, and then that will cycle it through the fish tank and through the swirl filter and back into the sump tank. And again, I don't know how good that's going to work, but I'm just, like I said, I'm trying to
Do you mind if I
make
hop
a.
in real quick?
Sure.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Now, you actually touched on something that I was wanting to ask you since you started up when you're saying that you were doing perpetual harvest from the same tank.
Uh-huh.
Because I know that in veg, you're going to want those higher nitrate levels. You're going to want
Right.
them dirt low when you get into flower. Now, Steve,
Uh-huh.
do you know about how long it takes for plants to take up nitrates from the water? Because if he's going to be trying to get it to go from a veg straight over towards the flower tank, he might still be only like getting taken out before it gets over there. And if he has too high a nitrogen during flower, that might give him problems.
Well, so what I would do is I would keep the whole system in the nitrogen level for flower, and then I would just supplement the nitrogen in the soil layer and boost it that way.
Okay.
for veg?
See, I actually right now I don't have any dual root zone plants in my system, except for I have
This man.
one mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? And I actually have done some dual root zone in the past, and I do love the results because it just seems a lot more consistent of the growth rate, you know. But
It just takes a while to really dial it in. Like I'm still
yeah,
finally
yeah.
starting to get towards perfecting mine, but it takes a couple of harvests before you really see it doing what you want it to, as far as how much you should be putting in for the nutrients, the water, how much of a dry layer you need. Like there's a lot to it. Funny, yeah, man.
Right. And that's kind of why I made the disclaimer at the beginning. I'm sort of new to growing. I'm not, to be completely honest, I'm not in a legal zone of any kind. So I'm doing it on the low.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, there you go. And like I was saying, I don't know exactly how well that would work, the theory that I kind of thought up there, but I figured it would at least help get the nitrates down in the water some before it goes into the flowering and then recycles the whole system or whatever.
Oh,
But I'm still playing around with it.
it absolutely will, but not quite as much as you would hope.
Right. Another question I wanted to definitely ask you, Steve, while I had you available to me is, do you think that the system I'm describing, the system I run, the plants and veg, would I have to worry about them taking up very many of the, like the phosphates, potassiums that I need for my flowering?
No, and then even in flower, the plant's using mostly potassium, especially after week 4 of flower, is like kind of the main thing that's pulling up aside from CalMag at that point. So, that's really your biggest things you need to monitor.
Okay.
Phosphorus, especially after week 3 or 4 in flower, is highly overdosed, I guess broadly. So,
Okay.
I would dose the whole system if it's for flower, and then again, just supplementally, adjust those plants and veg.
Hey, Steve,
Right.
I
Cool.
gotta cut out, man. But I will see you on Saturday. B,
Okay.
It was great talking to you finally. I've seen some of the stuff you've been doing. It all looks good. And yeah, keep it up, man. If you ever have any questions, feel free to hit me up on Instagram or on YouTube.
Cool. All right, thanks for joining us.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Yeah, good talk, man.
We also have ECSD. He's another person. He just joined us. Are you there?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys can hear me.
Yep.
Coming through clear over here.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Welcome for joining us. Why don't you tell us about yourself and what you grow?
Yeah. I'm out of Rhode Island on the East Coast.
Where's that pipe?
Been growing aquaponics there for probably like a year now. Maybe growing for about 6 years total. Did soil, hydro, did the old Murray Howell DVDs back in the day. Like, oh, I want to try this with herb, and everyone said that it couldn't be done. And then I started doing it with like a old small like 5-gallon system that I just did kitchen herbs with and a random seed. And then I was like, fuck it. Then I built a 50-gallon system, 8x6 flood table, and it looked good. And then stumbled upon this podcast shortly after. And
That's awesome.
Awesome. To be completely honest, that's what got me into aquaponics, is that, again, I was kind of new to growing, and I saw this method that I was seeing a bunch of people saying that was not viable for growing cannabis, and I kind of started doing research from there, and I was like, well, you know what? Maybe this would be something good for me to get into.
Oh yeah, not to mention the flavor you
prove
get.
some folks wrong. Yeah, definitely. I've since I've been having my harvest, I've only been doing 2 strains right now. I've got some seedlings of some other stuff coming up, but my friend, he grows in soil, and he is allegedly, and he uses fox farm, ocean, forest, soil. And I mean, again, as a person who's mostly new to growing, I'm impressed how you can simply just throw whatever plant into that soil and it seems to grow like very well, you know. So like as a beginner's product there, that's it's an interesting product to use there. But comparing the flavor between his and mine, it seemed like the fruity lemon flavor of the strain just really came out in my aquaponics system.
Oh yeah, we've definitely had, you know, multiple. Pretty much every strain I've ever tried, now that I think about it, has come out where the terpene profile has come out just much better in the aquaponics.
Yeah.
Especially Golden Goat came out super lemony, almost like a lemon haze. I couldn't believe it. A couple of them were just the flavor was so much different than how it would normally come from even soil or hydro.
Right.
So it just really makes a night and day difference. Marty will be joining us here. His laptop decided it wanted to update when he fired it up. So the moment
Oh, that's wonderful.
his updates finish, he'll be joining us. So what kind of problems have you guys run into just kind of getting started? You guys are, on a, more of the kind of getting your feet wet into this kind of stuff. What kind of issues have you guys run into?
I guess I'll go ahead and take that one first. My main thing has been trying to understand pH and what makes it tick, you know, how to get it buffered correctly and really find that good buffering zone where you're just dosing a little bit to keep it where you want it, you know. That's been basically my main challenge because I was foolish enough to start up with tap water, and again, I didn't really know all the technical stuff I needed to know to combat that problem, just presenting myself with a really huge issue starting off, you know. So
And it also depends on your initial pH as well. You know, some places
yeah,
like Colorado, your pH is going to come out the top at 8.2. But,
yeah, that's pretty much what mine comes out as.
But I've been into other places where it comes out, 5.6, and you have all kinds of other issues. So it really is locally dependent on that kind of stuff. What are you using right now for your pH up or down regimen?
Right now I have oyster shell from I can't remember, Down to Earth I think is the name of the company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pretty much just using that to regulate the calcium carbonate level in the water to regulate my pH.
Sure. And are you dosing any potassium at all, or?
Not really. I don't really I haven't really I don't know. I guess I just haven't no, the short answer is no.
No, that's fine. You might want to think about, especially with calcium carbonate, when you're solely using that, the excess calcium eventually can cause phosphorus uptake issues. And you really want to try and keep your phosphorus to calcium ratio about a 3-to-1. And then you want to keep your magnesium to calcium ratio is about a 2-to-1, a 2 calcium for 1 magnesium. But basically what happens when you just use the calcium carbonate or oyster shells, which is all of its aragonite, which is calcium carbonate, again, the excess calcium can cause phosphorus uptake issues. If you look at your, for anyone that's ever curious as to what nutrients can cause what deficiencies and what problems, there's a handy gardening chart out there called the Mulder's chart, which Mulder's chart allows you to look at the different nutrients and see, how much, excess calcium locks out iron, locks out phosphorus. We'll just use this as an example because it does those two things. You can also see that when you have too much of one nutrient, which other nutrients you need to raise in ratios in order to keep everything balanced. And if everything's in balance, then your plants are happy unless you really crank your total parts per million. And if it's not, then you're going to end up with an imbalance and can cause some issues. So if you're having some issues with bud density or bud size, that very well may be the issue is the excess calcium.
Okay, okay. I've been pretty happy with the bud density I've been having, to be honest. And
Nice.
as far as my potassium goes, I'm not. Let's see, how do I say this? I try to use my knowledge to kind of develop my own theories of growing, I guess you can say. I don't know how much
Sure.
sense that makes, but like as far as my fish feed goes, I try to go heavy on stuff like fruits and vegetables because I remember asking way previous in a podcast because, like you said, I'm a real big fan of the show. I try and tune in live as much as I can,
Sure.
and that was one of the first questions that I had pop into my head. Just as being a new aquaponic grower, is what can I do with my fish feed to regulate what kind of nutrients my fish are putting out or what nutrients are going to be just present in the water in general. So I
Sure.
kind of just, as far as fruits and vegetable additives, I like to use banana and iron. That way, whatever's left of that, I tend to not, I guess overfeed sounds bad, but I don't really know how else to put it, but kind of generally overfeed a little bit on purpose. That way, a little bit of that fish food that's blended up will kind of break down in the system and feed whatever it will extra to the system.
So I've actually done some back. I mean, I think I've talked about this once or twice, but I'll touch on this again, especially because I know Charlie Schultz, one of the guys that's a good friend of the show, has a company. You can look it up on UVI's UVI Aquaponics on Facebook. I honestly can't remember the name of the thing. In fact, I think I linked it in the episode that he was in. There's a company out there that has a brand of food out there now, and I'm real curious. I know that there's some.
Optimal fish food, was it?
I think Optimal Fish Food. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah. I've been using it myself. It seems to be working great.
Yeah, so I'm real curious to see how that works out because back when I worked for the aquaponics source, one of the projects we did was I don't know if you guys ever heard of ABC. They make an all organic food, the only organic fish food that's out there.
I'm not familiar. I think if that's the same one y'all may have mentioned on the podcast, that's all I've heard about it, to be completely honest.
Sure. So, but we worked with them, and we tested a bunch of different foods in both our research and development greenhouse and in the lab there. And the problem we were having is the iron and the potassium were the two things that, when we were, if I got them into the levels that would supply the plants, it was giving the fish heart attacks. In the case of potassium, they were having heart problems and kidney issues. And then in the case of the iron, it was causing, I think, liver problems. And that was the issue that we were having with trying to make one that was like 100%, zero supplementation fish food.
Right, right.
Were those two particular chemistry problems. Now, how I think that the best way ultimately, although no one's done this yet, is to do like an amino acid or fulvic acid chelated iron, because that would be able to be qualified as organic, but there isn't anyone out there doing any kind of commercial production specifically for aquaponics or hydroponics on that kind of thing. But there's chemistry wise there's no reason why that wouldn't work, but that's just one of those things that would also fit into that you could possibly add to a food that wouldn't harm the fish.
Right.
But those are the things. That's why I'm curious to see how this optimum fish food. Now, this optimum fish food maybe allow you to dramatically cut back on your supplementation for sure. I haven't had a chance to do parts per million testing on it, and if you get a chance to, I'd love to see yours if you ever end up testing it.
Cool.
Yeah, I'll have to get it.
I was gonna say the only question I would have about that fish food is it optimized for leafy greens or is it optimized for what we're trying to grow?
Absolutely. In fact, let me touch on that because we had a comment from last week's show it was this week's show on Reddit, I think it was. Hold on. So he goes, wow, I'm learning about, this is from the Sauciest 11. Is wow, I'm learning about aquaponics. I've been growing leafy greens and other stuff. Hopefully I'll be able to mix cannabis and nutritional greens in my system. Now, while you can, and I'm glad that somebody asked me this, and we've kind of touched on this a couple of times tonight. It's kind of almost been a reoccurring theme this evening. But basically, cannabis and fruiting crops have an entirely different nutrient profile than leafy greens. And if you try to do both, what will happen is the leafy greens are going to bolt and sprout right away. And that's the problem that we've traditionally had. With the, when trying to merge all of those at the same time, is that the leafy greens tend to bolt or they don't produce quite right. And that's why, even if in a commercial setting, you're far better off doing leafy greens separately from the flowering crops, because they need drastically different levels of phosphorus and potassium. And, to a lesser extent, micronutrients or micronutrient uptake will be drastically different in flowering crops and fruiting crops, because of fruit production and the hormones that are responsible for that, and flower production versus the leafy greens where you're just strictly trying to get that leaf material.
Yeah.
Hey, Marty finally joined us.
Hey, what's up?
What is up,
Marty?
What's
up, Marty?
Hey, how's it going?
Why don't hey Marty, why don't you tell us about all the crazy stuff you got going on? You just got a new light and a bunch of other stuff. I know you got quite a bit to talk about.
Let me see if I can.
And we missed last week because of the power issues I was having. So
yeah, here I'm just gonna. I'll have my webcam shit loaded, but you can kind of see the bottom of the light there. So this is a demo light from Vivid Grow. And it's 588 actual watts, so that's what it's consuming. Not actually, I don't even think they give it one because they're smart enough to realize that it's bullshit. So there, and you can see a little better. So they just had, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but they actually just had an ad up on Facebook for people to do trial lights. And so I messaged the guy and sent him the podcast link and the Cannabis Growers Group link. And he emailed me back within like a day and was like, yeah, sounds cool. And I was kind of surprised, and he said he was going to get it lined up and ship it out the next week, and then he did. So he asked a few questions, like, looked over the channel and stuff, but, for the most part, they're trying to get exposure for their lights. And, so, I literally just got it hooked up. I totally spaced that, there was no plug on it. They come so that you can wire up whatever plug you want. And he told me that. And, of course, I got all excited about the new light. And just ran out there and unhooked all my other shit. I had it all taken down and was, I had plans to have it all hooked up and ready to go for the podcast. And then I totally forgot I had to do that. So I had to find the soldering iron, and then I had to find the solder, and then it was just, it was a drama. So then I had to cut a cable so that I could make just a power cable so that I could make a power plug for it and get it all hooked up. But now that it's up, I do like it. I guess I didn't fully realize how heavy it would be. It's 65 pounds, which, I read that going into it, but I didn't realize how difficult it'd be putting it up by myself. So that was kind of a chore, but it's definitely heavy duty, build. It's solid. It says right on it that, that it's made for human environments. And I don't know if it's IP65 or anything like that, but it definitely, I would not be concerned about water on it too much. So those are just kind of my initial impressions of it. Again, it's only been powered up for maybe like 20 or 30 minutes while my laptop then decided to do updates when I powered it on to sign on after that. It was like the trifecta. So anyway, after all that, that's kind of what I have going on, and yeah. So I'll be shooting some more videos on that and updates on it. Kind of let you guys know what I think. I'm probably going to hold out a little bit of judgment with this round, since these plants were leftover plants from replacing out the herbs, and I always do better with plants that I clone and raise up in the aquaponic system than anything that I transplant. So, and plus these already spent 2 weeks underneath the other light. So I'm not going to do like too big of impressions on these first plants as they finish up, but the next round we'll be able to do a straight head-to-head grow with the same strains, the same cut of the same strain on both sides, and then do a head-to-head with the cheap LED that I've had here for a couple of years, and then also with the ceramic metal halide lights that are on the other side over here.
Yeah, it'll be fun to do to see like head-to-head against the CMHs against two different types of LEDs. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Do it.
At this point, I think the CMH is probably. The Vivid Grow light just got here. Obviously, the cheap LED was just getting pounded by the CMH lights. These things are awesome.
Yeah, you got you one of them Spectra King 600s.
Yeah, so those, that would be, I guess, a Spectrum King 600 would be sort of the equivalent of what the Vivid Grow is, since it's like a 588, sort of right in that same sort of comparison range. So that's another kind of cool comparison. We can do cross channels anyway.
Awesome. Yeah, that'll be super dope.
Yeah,
So,
those
but other
Spectrum
than that-
Kings are nice. I wish I could afford those.
Yeah, they're not the cheapest, but holy shit.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about them, and I've checked out Ganja Guy's videos, and some of their own videos are really cool too. I feel like they do a pretty good job of doing grow-offs of their own that are, actually valid instead of, some sort of bias. So, I mean, they set up a pretty good little area for each one and run the same strains, and so I like their content on their channel is pretty good. They didn't make any for a little while, but I noticed they're back to doing it again. So I enjoy watching their videos and keeping up on that. I would say, probably the ones with the white light, whether it's Cobb's or the Spectrum King or any of those other ones. Yeah. I mean, I guess I tend to be a little bit biased towards those, but I haven't really used them. And this is obviously a heavy red. I don't know if you guys can tell too much in the light when it was up there before, but it's mostly red LEDs with white mixed in, which sort of gives it a different feel than like the Blurple lights, where they use a whole bunch of different lights to make up the spectrum. It looks to me like they're going mostly red and then throwing some white in between to sort of balance that out.
Oh, we had there was a couple other news things. So the which was it? There's that company that makes a bunch of opioid drugs. Got the synthetic version that ended up sinking legalization in Arizona. They ended up getting a patent for the synthetic version of CBD. Is it synthetic CBD? Was it? I forget what the exact mimic molecule was, but another version of synthetic weed that doesn't need to be invented.
Right.
And their stock price plummeted actually, which was pretty fucking awesome. It went down about 20% when they announced it. So
Perfect.
Yep.
And then the Canada thing, right? Did you guys talk about that yet?
A little bit earlier. You want to talk on your thoughts on it? I had a couple of thoughts about how bullshit it was. They limited it to 4 plants, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess all the same shit that we say about only being able to grow 4 plants here. It's without or for recreational anyway. And then obviously only 6 for medical is probably the biggest complaint that I have, which I think is bullshit. But I guess it's better than 0.
I guess they're hoping everybody's gonna be running basic 6x6,000 watt HPS growing pounds of medicine.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think some people miss the mark on that. Like in terms of legislators, you know, like that they think that everybody is going to just go grow it out of the box and blow it up the first chance. Like it's just like some easy thing you can just go through, or not invest anything. Like especially when you're talking about cancer patients, a lot of times they're declaring bankruptcy because of their, at least here in the United States, probably not as much of a concern in Canada, but at least here, I feel like, especially like people that I know, you know, they're like, well, yeah, it'd be great for me to grow my own stuff and all that, but, you know, I don't really have any money to spend. I barely have money to spend on food, let alone money to spend on anything else. I'm gonna go bankrupt, and you know, I have to buy prescription meds, and all this shit's expensive, you know. So there's just a huge, I feel like, disconnect between like, oh, you should be fine on 4 plants, just throw them outside. What's the big deal?
Right. Not only that, but then you have, I don't know if this is like a countrywide thing, but where I'm at, you have doctors that will cut you off from your pain medication that you're getting from the pharmaceutical industry, your opioids and whatnot, if they find THC in your bloodstream.
Not only that, worse than that, they'll cut off your fucking organ transplant. If you're a person who's trying to prevent organ rejection, and they find out before or after that you took that shit, they'll end treatment immediately if you've already had the organ transplant. And if you haven't had the transplant yet, they'll literally deny you your transplant and then basically sign your execution warrant, because there's no way you're gonna live without it. Like that's the biggest fucking bullshit in the entire country. And I try not to curse too much on the show. You know, I think the only other time I really went on a rant was when they stage 1 or the schedule 1 CBD. But you know, goddamn it, dude, what the fuck is wrong with you when you're gonna tell someone who's trying just to get through their day with their pain or their other debilitating illness, who needs new organs, that they're in the wrong for trying to do something to make themselves feel better? No, like, you're a piece of shit and you're heartless, and you know, you're the one that should have to forfeit their life, not them. You know, it's completely ridiculous. They should make those people have to be automatic organ donors if they say no. And then when they die in a car accident, they have to give up their organs. That's what they should do.
Right on.
Yeah, I just think that whole, you know, like, legalization is always going to come with bullshit.
Let's talk about, actually, on that note, let's talk about Sacramento. Sacramento county is banning all productions outside of Sacramento City, and then setting insane tax rates and production prices for the city of Sacramento. If that isn't like an organized tax monopoly and extortion racket, I literally do not know what it is. Like, straight up, like forcing all of it to be within a certain area. Like, this is bullshit. This isn't what people voted for. That's not legalization. That's extortion. That's what the mafia does.
Yeah, it's the fucking mafia. I talked about this before, like when I got shut down growing outside here, and basically, you know, that they're the fucking mafia, dude. They show up and then they're like, hey, those are some nice plants back there. You better give me some money. I'd hate for somebody to come over and tear those out of the ground. Because that's exactly what the fucking mob does, right? They come in and they say, hey, man, it'd be a shame if we came in and tore your fucking place up. I mean, pay us some money so that we don't tear your shit up. And that's basically the same thing that the county does here, or the city. It doesn't really matter. I'm just not inside the city limits, so it happens to be the county that shows up at my door. But it's really the mob. Yeah, they're the fucking mob. They show up. They say, hey, give us some money, or we're gonna raise the price, right? Because my first fine is $600, and then my second fine is $10,000, and then my third fine is $10,000.
Well, shit, if you
So-
got the second, might as well go for the third. Shit.
Well,
Yeah.
I figured out how I could get around it for last year and just sort of extend it out so that I could finish the season last year. But there's no way that they were going to approve me, just based on their bullshit criteria for a few different reasons. But at least I got to finish last year's outdoor. But now it's strictly indoor for me. All because my neighbor needs a safe place for his nose. It's like how. I've never met anybody that would prefer the smell of cow shit, which is right over my back fence. It smells like cow shit because there's a bunch of cows in the field back there, and it's EFU. And that guy back there, even though he doesn't choose to, he can grow like something like 64 plants or something like that because of his zoning. But because 10 feet on the other side of the fence, now it's on my property and I'm zoned differently than that, so I can't grow.
You need to either put a gate in that fence or you need to build a tunnel under that fence. I think the options here are clear.
Yeah, except for he's the guy that complained about my grow in the first place, so I'm pretty sure he doesn't want
Wow.
me growing over there.
So let me
But,
get this straight. The cow shit guy is upset about the smell of weed?
Yeah, the cow shit guy is upset about the
Jeez.
smell of, like, just process that
Well, hold on.
for a minute.
Hold on. There's got to be some ordinances about smell and cow shit density.
Oh, sure there is. If it was my property. So, like, that's why they have EFU zoning. And because his property is EFU, it can smell like cow shit or whatever the fuck he wants it to. Because he's zoned EFU, which is exclusive farm use. So if his property was urban residential like mine was.
Right, but isn't there laws about how the smell drifts into residential? Because I know, like in Colorado, you can have a farm, but you can't have a farm, like there's separate limits for farms directly next to residential versus farms adjacent to other agriculturally zoned.
Yeah, so basically that's true. That does exist, but his property is grandfathered in because this house didn't exist when his property was zoned. So until that property is split or rezoned again, it's not going to get rezoned. So basically, it's still EFU until they sell it, split it up. Even if they sell it, actually, it could still be transferred as EFU. You would have to like subdivide it into another piece of property, and then those two would be separately evaluated for rezoning. Or he could pay to request to have it rezoned, but why would he do that? Because then he would just end up with,
And our point is, we shouldn't have to go through any of this bullshit just to grow some goddamn medicine.
Right. And have you ever met anybody that prefers the smell of cow shit over cannabis, flowering cannabis?
For real, like this is ridiculous.
There's no fucking way. Like, yeah.
Hasn't the government done such a great job just turning everyone against us?
Absolutely. The other big thing I wanted to touch on this week is the International Church of Cannabis is about to open their first church in Denver, in a 113-year-old church in downtown Denver on, hold on, the address is on here. It's on 400 South Logan Street in Denver at the Elevation Ministries, and it's Elevation Ministries is the new church name. They just bought out an old church, and it's now the International Church of Cannabis. So if you're in Denver, definitely go check that out. You
awesome.
Probably won't get a chance to do that very long. I'd be surprised if they're. We'll see how long they operate. It's a pretty interesting idea.
Well, that's the same concept that Eddie Lepp had, in San Francisco, and obviously he spent 5 years in jail. That's how that turned out. So.
Well, they allow it. Well, the interesting is they allow peyote for Native Americans, but they don't allow weed for white people. Like, you gotta be like, I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Well, yeah, but now Native Americans have sovereignty, I guess. That's,
This is also true.
they-
I'm a quarter
they-
native, so I can say those things.
Yeah.
Full disclosure. Yeah, actually, on that note, I was actually been in talks. I don't have anything settled yet, but I've been talking to some people. One of the Native American tribes, I won't say where, just so I don't get them in trouble, but on the eastern half of Canada is heavily considering production for a major city in Canada as well. It's one of the other people I've been talking to lately. We got a bunch of stuff. We'll have just everything up in Canada is coming along. Maybe about 2 to 3 weeks behind schedule with construction. But later this year we'll have a pretty gnarly facility to show you guys up in Alberta somewhere that I can't tell you guys too much more about yet. I think I mentioned it before about who it's with, but we'll keep it a secret again for now. What other things have you been doing, Brian and Marty? Or up to or reading up on in cannabis related stuff?
That's about it for me, really. I dosed some Mammoth tea yesterday,
Awesome.
so that's always fun. Always like to see the girls take off after that.
Yep.
I've been running this, or keep an eye on this Oregon skunk, or not Oregon skunk, it's Oregon Blackberry by Peach Frost. And I really like the way it looks and smells. It's definitely flowering faster than a lot of the other strains that are out here right now, but it's, I don't know if that's like strain specific or whatever, but it's definitely got my attention.
Here's the other article I wanted to talk about on the show today. Sorry, it took me a minute to find it. Attorney General Jeff Sessions directs task force to review federal marijuana policies. The task force will undertake a review of existing policies in areas of charging, sentencing, and marijuana to ensure consistency with the department's overall strategy of reducing violent crime. Basically, Jeff Sessions is going to have a review party on July 27th and basically hand down new guidelines to the federal government in regards to how to handle both medical and, well, technically medical is still illegal for him to do, but we'll see if he tries to push it. But about how he's going to handle recreational laws and to a lesser extent medical laws. He's quoted as saying, nothing that they're dubious medical marijuana laws. So we'll see what kind of bullshit this idiot wants to do. But hopefully the whole administration is going to go down in flames before then, if we're lucky. So.
Yeah, rumor has it he wants to bring back
mandatory
sentencing.
minimum. Yep, for weed. He wants to bring back 5-year mandatory minimums for weed, which is
because that works so well.
Ridiculous. Oh yeah, dude. Well, Jeff Sessions was sponsored by the private prison lobby, so no one should be responsible. When you got that much money up your own asshole, I really don't know what you want. Why do you think he's such a stuck-up prick? His asshole's filled with money from the private prison lobby. So, I apologize to everyone again that's joining us late. We weren't able to get the guys from Spectrum King on the show. We had some connection problems on their end. We're going to try and get them on again next week. If you're joining us late, that's why we're not doing lighting talk. But I do apologize. But yeah, the other thing I was going to touch on this week, and I thought that was kind of funny, and I wanted to mention it because I thought it was ridiculous. So I did I was posting on Facebook, and I love to lurk around a bunch of different gardening websites. And I brought up how silica deficiency is like a really common cause for powdery mildew. And then I was ended up getting scorned, told I was making stuff up, and then banned from the group, all because it was something that this admin had never heard of. And it's like, you know, it's really funny how finicky the gardening scene can be sometimes with different people, and how like just totally crazed certain people get to, and how comical it is sometimes over the silliest things, especially when you like someone asks for help and you reply to them, and then they end up like just getting angry at you because you replied to them with something that's outside their normal way of thinking. You know, it's just, I don't know. The gardening, especially aquaponics scene, is always that way, and always has a couple of sticklers that just love to be comically ridiculous.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
I would agree with you, EC. EC says worse than high school, haha. Yeah, I would say sometimes. There's a handful of people in the community that are pretty hard to get along with sometimes, but we all do our best to try and spread knowledge and be positive. I know I've definitely spent a lot of time trying to be more positive since I turned 30 a couple of weeks ago, so. Yeah, does anyone else have any other topics? I do apologize for not having the guests that we were trying to have on. We tried to get them on last week, and I had technical problems. We couldn't get them on, and this week's been a little bit difficult trying to get them on their end. But we will have interviews this weekend from the Dude Grows Cup. I'll be there all weekend, or I'll be there all Saturday, 5 to 10 p.m. Denver time. If you guys are interested, check out Dude Grows website for that. Do you guys have anything else you guys want to touch on before we wrap things up? We'll have kind of an abbreviated show this week. Any questions or comments? Oh, I remember the other thing, and since Marty's here, before we had talked about doing the online class on the weekend of the 22nd and 23rd. With Marty and I think we're going to have to push it back a weekend unless it doesn't work for him. We're going to reschedule that a weekend or two after. I just had forgotten that I had already scheduled a class that weekend. So I do apologize for anyone that was looking to join that. We will be still doing that, just on a different date, and I do apologize for that. That was my screw up.
Marijuana affects the memory.
Yeah, it happens. Especially when you have a rosin press and you make dabs all day. It's kind of
man, dude, you need to make some squish videos already. I demand it right now, live.
I'm going to. I actually have like the new area that I'm setting up for all this stuff is much better lit than the place I was at before. So it was in kind of a darker little shop that we had. So we have a newer area that we just finished building out now that we're not like just getting our foot in the door of the shop. So you'll see it's a nice, neat, clean, well-looking area for the new videos and all, so you'll like it. We'll have a lot more footage coming up here soon. I'll be up at Ouroboros next weekend for anyone that's interested in taking that in-person class on up in Half Moon Bay near San Francisco. I'll be up there on the 22nd, 23rd, and then Marty and I hopefully will be doing an online class the weekend after that, or the nearest weekend where Marty isn't baby juggling.
Yeah, right. No kidding. That weekend should be fine as long as I'm not juggling babies.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, Marty's expecting, so first male ever.
My wife's expecting, but but yeah, baby's due on the 12th, so we'll kind of play that by ear. And that's the same thing for those of you guys who were. I talked about doing a class at Ouroboros also, so that's basically going to wait till after the kid gets here and Steve's class gets done, and can actually schedule a time, because other than that it was just kind of too much up in the air. So that'll get put on hold until after that. So I would assume probably in June sometime, and as soon as I get a clearer picture, I will let you guys know. But you can always check on, if you're looking for online content, you can always look at my Patreon. We got a group of probably like 6 or 7 of us now that, just sort of do question and answer sessions. And, I have how-to videos, more sort of in-depth videos for people that maybe you already know about cannabis, but don't know anything about aquaponics or vice versa. you've done aquaponics, but you don't really know anything about cannabis, you can find out, sort of the basics of what you need there just for growing for yourself. It's no like commercial class or anything like that, but you're welcome to check that out. I just finished up a whole series on beneficial bugs, and then I do just sort of like about every other day or so, I do a video blog with information on whatever I have going on, whether it's cutting clones or transplanting or setting up dual root zones or whatever. I try to provide a little bit of information about the stuff that I'm doing, since I'm always doing something. So you guys can check that out if you want. That's patreon.com/apmins.
Awesome. And Brian,
Are you there?
Oh, Steve's not coming through on my side.
Steve's not coming through?
Yeah, I can't hear anything he's saying.
Steve, are you still there?
I can hear you, Marty. I don't know what was, if he was asking me something or what.
I don't know like he was, but then I think he cut out.
Did he cut out?
I can't hear him anymore now. I thought he asked you something. I just didn't hear it. So.
Yeah, I couldn't hear what he was saying.
that's why I figured it out.
Mute.
Brian, yeah, I accidentally hit my auto mute button on my headphones and not my thing. I was like, well, everything's not muted. Brian, is there anything you want to plug or mention? Is it a YouTube channel or anything?
Yeah, I guess just check me out on YouTube. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm working on the framework for a new breeding chamber that I'm trying to set up. So hopefully that goes well. I will be doing a video upload on that hopefully later on this month and whatnot. And I also I'm much more active on Instagram, simply because it's easier to be. You're just uploading pictures instead of going in. I like to do a lot of production and editing on my videos, so it takes a little bit more effort on my end to produce a video. So like I said, I'm a lot more active on Instagram. It's BrainGrow, BRAYNEGRO, same as it is on my YouTube channel on Instagram. So that's pretty much it though.
Awesome. Alrighty. If anyone wants to find out more about me, you can find me at potentponics@gmail.com or potentponics on Twitter, potentponics on YouTube. You can find, if you want to take the class, check out ouroborosfarms.com. Also, be sure to check out Dude Grows if you want to come out and hang out with me and Fish Ganja Guy. Come out to Denver this weekend. If you were looking for more information, check out dudegrowsshow.com/DGCcup. That's dudegrows.com/DGCcup. DGCCUP. And you guys can hang out with me, the guys from Dude Grows, the dudes from Spectrum King, the guys from Mammoth P, the guys from a couple different rosin companies are going to be there doing live demos. Hold on, we have Dax Pressing from Dax Rosin. We'll have a thing there. Mountainside Glass is a big bong glass trophy for the winner of the cup. There's also some other giveaways as far as glass goes. It'll be awesome. So come out and hang out, support the scene. They're a really awesome group of guys. If you ever use Recharge or anything like that, definitely come out. Way to Grow is the other sponsor. So big thanks to all those companies, and hope to see you guys there. And be sure, if you guys are looking for nutrients, check out True Aquaponics, trueaquaponics.com. And is that everybody? I think Spectrum King hopefully will be joining us next week. We tried to have him on last week. Again, I touched on why I had power problems, This week they were having connection problems, so I'll at the very least get a good interview with them in person with Fish Ganja Guy, and then we'll see. We'll try to get them on the show next week. So I appreciate everyone's patience. I apologize again for not having them on, and for us not being on last week. So we're trying really hard this year to be on every week and on as much as possible to get some other guest hosts like Fish Ganja Guy and some other good people. So really appreciate everyone helping out, and yeah, thanks for joining us, and we'll see y'all next time. Have a good one.
See you later.
All right, peace out, gents.